is the story of 4 families.
Ow!
And 1 meal.
Welcome to our Thanksgiving feast.
She's the mommy, she's the daddy, and I'm the alcoholic, cult-worshipping Satanic Step Mother.
We're playing Thanksgiving.
Each with its own distinctive flavor.
Why do you want to make the turkey taste like everything else we eat?
Simmering with its own joy.
I'm pregnant.
You're a lesbian. What did he say?
Hi.
Rachel is a lesbian, you know, like Ellen.
Love.
My mom has a boyfriend.
Feeling strong?
Yeah.
Good. This is my daughter, Gina.
And I'm Javier, her ex-husband.
And pain.
What's your fault he's not coming, Ronald?
Come on, this is Thanksgiving. We'll get through this.
I guess you can't call yourself a family if someone isn't speaking to someone else.
It's too late because I've asked him now.
No, you're just going to have to unask him. Unask him. That's it. Senor Turkey.
It is, everyone.
Don't poke my turkey. It's still pink. That's not done.
Thanksgiving is the easiest meal to make. Just take that turkey, throw it in the oven, and the rest will cook itself.
Kentucky Fried Chicken.
This Thanksgiving, give thanks.
Amen.
My favorite part about Thanksgiving is knowing I can eat this tomorrow.
Give grief.
If I had $1 for every time Ronald said y'all was coming, I'd be as rich as Oprah.
Give in.
Is it low fat?
And get out as quick as you can. What's cooking?
What would you like for dessert? Would you like some flan, some pie?
I want my wife and children back.
A new comedy stuffed with misgivings.
Make sure it goes all the way in the back. That's my favorite part.
Starring Joan Chen, Julianna Marguiles, Mercedes Ruehl, Kara Sedgwick, and Alfred Woodard. What's cooking?
Will you stop interrupting me so I can give your daughter some wonderful advice? Maybe it would help if you changed your hair or something, maybe a little more glamorous.
Oh, yeah!
In a world where podcasts reign supreme, 2 friends dare to ask, do you even movie? Hosted by filmmaker Henrique Couto and movie aficionado David D. Neuer. Spoiler alert.
Welcome back to Do You Even Movie? I'm your host, Henrique Couto, here with my co-host, David D. Neuer.
Greetings.
And we are all about the Thanksgiving season.
Yes.
And we are heading into it with a 3rd Thanksgiving movie. Did I count that right?
Yes, you are correct.
Okay.
And I think this is probably, we've said 2 big favorites so far, but I think this is one that absolutely just breaks the mold for a perfect Thanksgiving film.
Yeah, no, I would say so. What's Cooking from 2000?
That is correct.
A movie that I think most people may have missed.
Yes, no, I mean, that's I think that's pretty telling from talking to both friends and family. This is one that we found in one of our infamous Thanksgiving marathons. We talked about it last week on the show, and neither of us had heard of it. We put it on one day, and it just blew us away.
Yeah, I was very surprised by the film.
Yeah.
A very high mark for the 2000s that just kind of vanished.
High mark and Trimark.
That's maybe part of the reason.
That could
I don't
be
think Trimark lived much past 2000.
I think we looked into it one time, and I think that was it. Like, this was right at the tail end of them. I think like maybe they had 2 years after this.
Yeah, well, they were trying not to just make, trashy Leprechaun movies. They were trying to make something that would like win awards.
Leprechaun's good up to 5, I think.
Well, I didn't say Leprechaun wasn't good.
No, you said trashy Leprechaun movies.
Well, yeah, they're trashy as hell.
Yeah,
they're not winning any awards.
They should.
I bet they've been given Razzies.
I'm sure they've been given Razzies, especially for.
Well, I mean, he's in space and he's giant.
And he's directed by Brian Trenchard Smith, who directed 3 and 4, I think.
Yeah, 3 and 4.
Yeah.
Yep. So, this is one that was kind of desperately under the radar.
Yeah.
It's now readily available. When we found it, it wasn't anywhere really.
No,
it was just for rental.
Yeah, I think you rented it. Did we rent it off Amazon? I think.
I think so.
Yeah, because then we found out there was a DVD, which is still in press today. If you end up liking this movie, cannot recommend the DVD enough because it's the only version of the movie available. There's no Blu-ray of it.
Yeah.
And that is What's Cooking is just a movie that if you have not seen and you're getting ready to listen to the podcast, I beg of you, please stop the podcast, go watch the movie and come back because there's so much that we're going to talk about in the film, but it's worth watching. Absolutely. There's no denying that.
It's streaming right now on Prime. You can find it on Tubi.
Freevee, a bunch of other places.
Well, Freevee will only be around for another month.
Yes, that's true. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
So get to it while you can.
Yeah, or just go to Tubi. Tubi will probably be there a long time.
That's fair. So, you ready to get into the deets?
Absolutely.
Pertinent deets for What's Cooking. 2000 is when this film was released. 1 hour and 49 minutes. Rated PG-13 for some sexuality, brief language, and a perilous situation.
There are at least 3 languages in this movie. I don't know why I would call them brief.
Brief. Our director and writer on the film, one of the writers, is Gurinder Chadha. She gets her start in 1991 with I'm British But, which she was also the writer on. Baji on the Beach in 93, which she's also the writer on. Then does What's Cooking in 2000, which she's the writer and director on. Bennett Like Beckham in 2002, she's also the writer on that. Bride and Prejudice in 2004, writer on that as well. Paris J. Tami, 2006, she is writer on, but that is a compilation of writers and directors, so she is one of them on there. I think 20 is in that film, if I'm not mistaken.
That's a lot.
Yeah. Angus, Thongs, and Perfect Snogging from 2008, which she's the writer on. It's a Wonderful Afterlife in 2010, which she is writer and director on. Viceroy's House in 2017. Beecham House in 2019. Blinded by the Light in 2019, the Bruce Springsteen musical, I think like a coming-of-age movie.
I'm not familiar.
We saw trailers for it. We didn't get a chance to see it. I've heard good things, but I haven't a chance. But she got screenplay credit on that as well as directed it. And Homemade in 2020.
Yeah, I'm shocked how little of her filmography I'm familiar with.
Yeah, writer on the film along with her is Paul Medea Burgess. What's Cooking in 2000 has a writing credit on. Bennett Like Beckham, Bride and Prejudice, The Mistress of Spices in 2005, Paris J. Tami in 2006, Angus Thongs and Perfect Snogging, It's a Wonderful Afterlife, Viceroy's House, Beecham House, Blinded by the Light, and Homemade. So I would say they are writing partners.
It sounds that way for sure.
Now, cinematographer on the film, calling back to the ice storm from a couple weeks ago, our cinematographer is John Lynn on the film, gets his start in 1991 on the Ang Lee film Pushing Hands.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Then goes on to do the Ang Lee film The Wedding Banquet in 1993.
Nice.
Shoots the Ang Lee film Eat, Drink, Man, Woman in 1994.
Wow, okay.
Then shoots Shanghai Giselle in 98, What's Cooking in 2000, Marzin Beinik, 2001, Bennett Like Beckham, 2002, Sunflower, 2005, Blind Mountain, 2007, Ming Zhang, 2009, Lan in 2009, Great Wall, My Love in 2011, Home Away, 2017, and Send Me to the Clouds in 2019.
Okay, so not the ice storm.
Not the ice storm.
Basically
cut off right before
almost
the ice storm.
all of Ang Lee's stuff up until then.
Yeah. The IMDb synopsis says 4 families in LA of different ethnicity, Latino, Asian, Vietnamese, African, and Jewish, gather together for Thanksgiving dinner.
It's pretty meat and potatoes, pardon the pun.
My synopsis. Thanksgiving dinner turns into an explosive event for 4 families of different ethnicities as each family struggles to keep it together and make it through the day.
It's pretty solid.
Yeah. I would say so. Taglines for the film include families, fights, feast, a holiday tradition.
That's a pretty solid tagline as well.
And the other tagline is Thanksgiving, a celebration of food, tradition, and relative insanity.
I could see that one. They were like trying really hard.
Yeah, I would say so, but it's still pretty good. Cast for the film, I want to go ahead and get this out of the way. There is a huge cast on this film, so I did do a selection of some. Didn't go through their entire filmography, but for one, we have Joan Chen, who plays Tren Nguyen in the film. Twin Peaks in
Win.
Okay,
yep.
Win.
Yep.
Tren Nguyen in she plays in Twin Peaks in 1989, On Deadly Ground in 94, Judge Dredd in 95, What's Cooking in 2000, Lust and Caution in 2007. We also have Julianna Marguiles, who plays Carla in the film, Out for Justice in 91, What's Cooking in 2000, Ghost Ship 2002, Snakes on a Plane, The Sopranos, The Upside, Billions in 2020. Mercedes Ruehl, who plays Elizabeth Avila, who got her start in The Warriors in 79, Radio Days in 87, Big, of course, she plays the mother in that in 88, Married to the Mob in 88, The Fisher King, Last Action Hero, Frasier, What's Cooking, Psych, and Two Broke Girls in 2016. Victor Rivers, who plays Javier Avila in the film, he gets his start in 86 on 8 Million Ways to Die, which is a great neo-noir with Jeff Bridges that I just saw actually this year for the first time. Really solid flick I'm going to bring around and show you. Twin Peaks Fire Walk With Me in 92. Blood In, Blood Out, Bound by Honor in 93. Star Trek DS9 in 95. Mask of Zorro in 98. What's Cookin'? Ang Lee's Hulk in 2003 and Better Call Saul in 2022. We also have Lane Kazan, who plays Ruth Sealing in the film. She was in Delta Force in 86. The Big Hit in 98. The Nanny in 95. What's Cooking in 2000. My Big Fat Greek Wedding in 2002. She plays the mother in that. Dennis Haysbert, who plays Ronald Williams. He, of course, Allstate voice that we all know. Major League in 89. Heat, The 13th Floor. What's Cookin'? He was also the president on 24 in 2001. We also have Alfre Woodard, who plays Audrey Williams in the film. Extremities in 86. Scrooge, she plays Bill Murray's assistant in that film in 88.
Oh, yeah.
Crooklyn in 94. Primal Fear. Star Trek First Contact. What's Cookin'? Has a great storyline in Desperate Housewives in 2005, by the way. She was a great character that came in, I want to say, probably the third or fourth season. Has a great storyline where she's like secretly keeping her son locked in the basement.
Yeesh.
Yeah. True Blood in 2010, and most recently was on the Salem's Lot remake in 2024.
Oh, okay.
What's Cooking is currently available, as Enrique mentioned, on Freevee, Prime, Stars, Roku. You can find it readily available. And like I've said, again, if you have not seen the film, and we are getting ready to get into it, if you have not seen it, go ahead and stop it now because you got to watch this movie. What was your first time watching it, Enrique?
I think it was on a Thanksgiving marathon about 5 years ago.
5 or 6, I think, yeah.
Yeah, completely you know what? Completely unexpected. I remember how we saw it. It was Voodoo free.
Voodoo free, you're right.
Yeah, we had commercials.
Yep. Oh, that's right. We did watch it with commercials.
Yeah. Well, we had no idea what it was. And it was one of the only places that it was.
And that was still at the time where we only thought there was like 7 Thanksgiving films.
Yeah. I don't know how the floodgates just opened up.
Because if I remember correctly, I feel like the year we found What's Cooking, we also found the balloon, the donut. I can never remember that full title.
I unfortunately can't remember the exact title.
That one, and I think that might have been the first year we watched House of Yes as well.
I had seen it on my own.
You'd seen it on your own?
Before, yeah.
Yeah, because that was one that you threw my way, which we may talk about at one point. But no, this was both of us watching this for the first time. We were, like I said already, we were just blown away. There is a reveal in the third act that makes this movie 4 stars for me automatically.
Yeah, the ending is solid. The film was the 2008 movie The Donut, the Balloon, and the Lifesaver,
yeah,
which is a very fascinating super indie movie that I really loved.
Very, very good. So you ready to get into the film?
Hell yeah.
So we open with a version of the national anthem as we start to see a picture of a nice Norman Rockwell-esque family, but they are modernized, and we pull out to reveal that it's the image on the side of a bus. And we are going through the streets of LA. We're inside the bus. We meet Jenny, who is with her boyfriend, and the bus is making its way through the streets. And that's when we also meet Audrey Williams, who's attending her daughter's Thanksgiving school play. In attendance is also Trini, Lizzie, and we also meet a couple of the other members as well. While this is also going on, we cut to Governor Rhodes, who is doing a meet and greet with some people, and he is out front of I think it's an establishment that's being built, and 3 guys walk up and throw white paint on him.
Yeah, they nail him.
They nail him pretty good. So that is when we also meet Ronald Williams, who again is played by Dennis Haysbert. He works for Rhodes as one of his assistants, and he immediately notices something about one of the men, but we don't find out what that is right away.
It's worth mentioning the guy who plays Rhodes was in Silent Night, Deadly Night 2.
Frank Novak.
Yeah, he was the guy beating up some guy in the street corner.
That is correct, yes. So we also see an end credit shot as we see the same Thanksgiving sign from the opening, but with a Mexican family this time, and I think it says Feliz, I can't remember the exact phrasing.
Well, it said Feliz de la Gracias.
Okay.
You know, happy, thankful.
Gotcha. So we also meet Gary and Jenny Wynn, who are working with their father in a video store, and their brother Jimmy calls, checking in with the family. He's in college, and he wants to talk to her mother. Jenny tells her that she's out right now, but he says to have her call him back, and he's only going to be in the dorm for another hour. So we see that Jimmy is in college, and he may not be spending Thanksgiving with his family.
Yeah, and this is the beginning of us just meeting all of these family members.
Yeah.
So early on, they show them preparing for Thanksgiving during the opening credits.
Yeah.
And the American music is taken over by cultural flavor, depending on who we're looking at.
Happens multiple times in the film.
Yeah.
So we also find out that we are going to meet another family, which is the Sealing family, as they are at the local grocery store. That's Ruth and Herb, who are buying their turkey dinners and whatnot. And also, we see that Herb is buying a couple turkey plushes for the grandchildren, which we'll find out a little later on as well.
Well, of course.
Also in store, we meet Audrey Williams once again, and we also meet Anthony Avila with his wife Sophia as they run into Javier, his father, who has split from his mother at this point. They are still married, but he is not living at home, and they are not together right now.
Yeah, and he reveals that he's spending Thanksgiving by himself because he is no longer with Awkward, his sister-in-law.
Yes. So that is when Javier is invited by Anthony to the Thanksgiving dinner, and he's like, are you sure that's okay? And Anthony's like, yeah, it should be fine. So he's like, okay, cool, I'll see you. As he walks away, Sophia's like, you're in deep shit.
Yeah.
So over at Lizzie's house, we see her in bed with her new man, Daniel. And she and Daniel are in the bed together. She receives a call from her daughter, Gina, letting her know that she's going to be coming over tomorrow to help and to not do anything because she wants to help her. Also, Lizzie expresses that she's excited to meet the new boyfriend of Gina's as he's going to be introduced to the whole family tomorrow for Thanksgiving.
That's a low-pressure way to meet everybody.
Just a small one. So she also warns her of the traffic tomorrow. We cut back to Jimmy, who receives a call from his mom, and he tells her his midterm schedule is going to keep him from attending the Thanksgiving, and she says the family will understand and that he's a good boy and that she hopes that he has a good Thanksgiving. We then cut to the airport where we meet Rachel Sealing and her girlfriend, Carla. Also at the airport, we see Audrey with her daughter, and they are picking up Ronald's mother, Grace. And Grace apologizes, Grace is asking where Ronald is, and that's when Audrey tells him that, he had to work. And she's like, oh, well, he's such a busy boy. It's okay. Is Michael going to be joining us for Thanksgiving? And that's when Audrey's like, well, Michael is busy at college. He may not make it to dinner. And Grace is like, what? Your own son's not going to come to Thanksgiving dinner?
And this is probably going to make your head spin a little bit, guys, because there's a lot of actors, a lot of characters, a lot of families.
Yeah. So Anthony arrives at Lizzie's house with the groceries, and Lizzie looks over the turkey, asking, do you think it's going to be enough? And she says, actually, on second thought, without your father coming, we'll probably have more than enough food. Actually, we'll probably have leftovers for the first time. And Anthony is petting the family dog, and he looks uneasy as she says this. So that is when we then cut to the video store where Lizzie goes into the video store and we see that Joey, the Wynn's son, he is one of her students and he also introduces her to his father and she asks, how does he like the neighborhood? That's kind of when we get a hint that she knows about where they live.
Oh, yeah.
So that may come back at some point. So the Sealings drive home, and we also see that Audrey and Ruth exit the airport, and Ruth is questioning, are you all ever going to come see me? Because she lives in Chicago, and she's flown down to L.A. at this point. She's like, if I had a nickel for every time you all said you were going to come visit me, I'd be rich. So we see that it's night now as Rachel and Carla arrive at the Sealings residence. Her mother and father greet them, introducing them to the family dog, and Rachel also watches as her dad shows Carla Rachel's room with 2 beds now.
2 twin beds.
2 twin beds, yes. And Audrey prepares the layout for dinner at the Wynn's. Grandma discovers a condom in Jimmy's coat, and that is
in the wrapper.
In the wrapper, not used.
Don't make it hideous.
Yes, and that is when her family is a bit concerned. Rachel joins her family outside with her dad as he soaks in the jacuzzi, and Jenny then comes home to the Wynn's, and the family confronts her about the condom. Jenny informs them that the school was passing them out. It's not a big deal, and her parents question why is school passing them out, and also comments on Jenny's no sense of modesty.
Yeah, well, and it's important to point out that the Wynn's. So what you have here is a pretty straight dichotomy of different American families.
Yeah,
you have a Latino family who have probably been in this country at least 3 generations, maybe more, maybe less. It doesn't really matter because they're in California, so they're very in the Chicano culture. Then you have the family with that working in politics.
Oh, the Williams.
Williams. And they're a black family, but they're definitely the standard American family, without a doubt.
Yeah.
So they're kind of waspy. They're affluent.
Making gravy with shiitake mushrooms.
Yeah, because they want to try something new because their lives are so boring being so rich. And, but no, I mean, it's kind of the traditional American problem. But then you look at then there's the Jewish family.
The Sealings, yep.
Yeah, and they're a little bit more of kind of that coastal tradition, a traditional family. But of course, the monkey wrench of the daughter who's a lesbian that they kind of already know, but they don't, but they do.
Yeah.
But then when you look at the Wynns, they're a really interesting family dynamic added to this because they have not been in America very long.
No.
So everything is novel to them.
Yeah.
Like to the kids, everything is new and exciting. And to the parents, everything is new and sometimes frustrating or threatening.
Yeah.
And I think that that's really an interesting way to go about it, because when they ask the oldest son, the one who doesn't come home, where he's from, he says he was born in Korea.
Yeah.
So that means that at least some of the kids, or maybe it was only him, were actually born in Korea. That suggests the family is very, very new to the country.
Vietnam,
sorry.
Yeah, you're good.
Korea. Nguyen is actually traditionally a Vietnamese name. That's why I knew how to say it. But no, so they just come to this country maybe 20 or 15 years ago, something like that. And they're trepidatious. Later on, we'll see that their daughter has a white boyfriend, and they're just not fond of him.
Yeah.
And not straight up because he's white, but because they're just certain that something's up with him.
Yeah.
They're just certain that like the way he dresses, where we live,
they're uneasy,
that kind of thing. So I think that is a really great dichotomy. You get a lot of varied degrees of American families.
Absolutely, you do.
And that's one of the things that struck me the first time I watched this movie very, very much, was how many examples of an American family they gave us, while only keeping it to like 4 families.
Yeah, 4 families, exactly.
So I just really think it's impressive how they handled it.
No, it's great. So meanwhile, Lizzie finds out that Anthony has invited Javier to dinner, and she reminds him that Javier left us. It's better this way, and he will need to find a way to uninvite him to dinner. She doesn't care how, but just uninvite him. He is no longer invited to dinner. Well,
it is awkward inviting your dad who cheated on your mom to the Thanksgiving dinner your mom is at.
Yeah,
it can be a little weird, especially when we find out it wasn't that long ago either.
It was not. So Ruth and Herb tell Rachel about the grandchildren that they're infatuated with, especially Herb, who is said to be 20 years younger when he's playing with them in the garden. We find out that they're really into the grandchildren. That's exactly who he was buying the turkey plushes for at the grocery store.
Of course. Well, that and his dog.
And his dog, yes. Even commenting to Rachel that she should spend more time with the grandchildren as well. At the Williams residence, Ronald returns home and is greeted by his mother, who gives him guff for working and not picking her up. And she even questions if everything is okay with Audrey because she's just been seeming off. He tells her everything is all right, but we see in the bedroom that Audrey is laying on the bed reading a book, but she's hearing the whole conversation. She looks uneasy, and as soon as Ronald's done talking to his mother, he goes into the bedroom. She's already shut off the lights and is acting like she's sleeping.
Yeah, there's clearly trouble in the home front.
Yeah. So that is when the Sealing household, we also see that they're getting ready for bed as Ruth and Herb question if they did something wrong to make Rachel a lesbian. Meanwhile, Rachel and Carla are on the other side of the wall, and Carla's kind of concerned, like, with her parents, like, is everything okay and whatnot? And Rachel's trying to be like, it's fine, like, don't worry about it. Meanwhile, on the other side of the wall, Ruth and Herb, Ruth starts crying because she thinks that they've done something wrong to make their daughter a lesbian.
Yeah, I mean, that's the great thing about guilt. It's the gift that keeps on giving.
I love it because Herb at one point, he's like, maybe it was that time we sent her to that all-girls camp.
The kibbutz.
So we also cut back to the Wins, and Trin questions why Jimmy doesn't want to come home anymore, chatting with the grandma, who reminds her that she should be thankful for her children every day. And next, we also see that Lizzie is prepping the turkey for tomorrow morning. And then we cut to Thanksgiving morning.
One of my favorite parts of this is the vastly different amount of care and thought that each family puts into the bird. There are some of them who are brining it all overnight.
Yep.
I believe the Mexican family is
the
brining it overnight.
Yep.
Then there's I'm just gonna use their ethnicities because it's gonna I just watched the movie and I'm having trouble.
No, you're fine. I was writing it. I understand.
Yeah, but then you have the Jewish family. They just kind of cut it open.
Yeah,
start doing stuff
the day of.
Yeah. I mean they thought it, Yeah, it's just the amount of effort. So then, like the Vietnamese family, they have the turkey and they're applying chili pepper flakes
to it. Yep.
Chili pepper sauce to one half of it, so that half of it will be very flavorful, which leads to one of my favorite lines in the whole movie.
Yeah, Jenny questions, she's like, why do we make the turkey taste like everything we already eat? And then Grandma's like, why do you want everything to taste like McDonald's?
Solid. That is some solid. Look. I had immigrant grandparents. That shit's legit. All right, I'm just saying. Like, yeah, that's kind of their game.
Yeah.
But no, I think that's a really great example too especially coming from you who hates turkey.
I don't hate turkey. It's just not one of my favorites. I've actually thought about this since last time we spoke.
Oh, okay.
And I have no new answer for it.
That's fair. Well, no. I mean, it's worth mentioning that turkey is relatively difficult to cook.
Yeah.
And most people do it once a year.
Yeah, that's fair.
So it's not like they get an immense amount of practice.
There's some families that apparently do both a turkey and a ham for Thanksgiving and Christmas both.
Well, I mean, there's no law against it, David.
It seems against the law to me.
I mean, I think that just depends on how big your family is.
No.
We did a Thanksgiving once with ham and turkey, but there were 38 friggin' people there.
At Thanksgiving, it's acceptable, I think. But I think the turkey to Christmas, no. No.
Well,
no, sir.
Well, having a turkey at Christmas is generally related to the fact that originally Christmas was about goose.
Yes, goose.
But now, good luck finding a goose big enough for a whole family.
That's fair.
And no one wants yet another chicken.
Yeah.
As Americans, at the very least, we just choke down chicken all year long.
Yeah.
It's the cheap, relatively healthy protein. So don't poo on their parade when they have I mean, look, my cousin Jeff just told us that he's doing Thanksgiving again this year.
Yeah.
He made the best turkey I'd ever tasted in my life.
I remember you telling me, yeah.
So, I mean, I'm not mad about the turkey.
No, I'm not mad about it. What I was gonna say is, having thought about turkey, I think what it is for me is that it's not something that I have so often unless it's like turkey slices, like cold cut and whatnot.
Oh, that's a whole other thing.
Yeah, that's a whole other thing. So it's just like I can eat those all day, but like turkey is not
people
something.
Eat turkey cold cuts all year long.
I know they do.
And they don't even think about that it's what you eat at Thanksgiving.
It tastes different.
Let it be known that David said cold cuts make the meat taste different than it normally would. Well said,
Thank
sir.
you. Thank
well
you
said.
so much. This fucking turkey debate. God damn it.
There wasn't even a debate.
No,
I was just
no.
talking about the turkey.
It's more so I was doing QC on our Dutch episode, and then I also had listened to the Ice Storm episode, and I was just like, I should have defended my argument better, but I really just do not have an argument.
Well, you don't have to have an argument.
No, I know.
mean, like, especially on something as benign as this discussion, you could be wrong and it wouldn't even be that
even
bad.
Matter.
Yeah, like it could just be that you don't like the way turkey's prepared for you.
I will say, I've never had a Christmas with a duck, and I really want Christmas with a duck once.
I only had the one.
Yeah, you did didn't you cook it yourself?
Yeah, well, it was only Rachel and I, because my mother, is very weird about the holidays, and her parents got COVID that year.
Yeah.
This was 2021, I think.
I think so, yeah.
And they had COVID, so it was just us on Christmas Day.
Yeah.
So, and we knew, thank goodness, like 2 days out or something. So we were at the grocery store and I saw a duck. And I was like, let's roast a duck. And it was amazing, but it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
And to get it good is even more work. And there's not that much meat on it.
Mm-hmm.
So we were actually like still kind of hungry, but using the duck fat to make mashed potatoes was amazing.
No, I would say so, probably.
Oh, God, it was so good.
I feel like did I try those?
I cannot remember.
I can't remember either, but it was. I rember you saying it was really good.
Yeah, we made mashed potatoes and duck fat gravy.
Yeah,
is what it was. Yeah,
I just had duck recently when we went to the Thai restaurant in Strongsville.
Oh, well, I mean, Asian style duck is phenomenal.
It was to die for.
We actually had a plan that if I ruined the duck, I never roast anything.
Dutched it.
If I Dutched it. If I had ruined that roast duck, we had a backup plan because CJ Chan, you can get a whole duck.
Oh, hell yeah.
So we had the backup plan that if it was wrecked, we had just enough time to call CJ Chan and put in an order for a fried duck. So that was our backup.
Do you remember what they charged?
It's probably like $40.
Okay. I may look into that.
I mean, duck's expensive.
Yeah, but I want to try some now for Christmas.
I mean, any Asian restaurant is going to have duck, especially if they're Thai or Chinese. They're going to have duck.
I am definitely going to seek that out. So at the ceilings, Ruth begins to prep her turkey, and at the Avilas, we see them stuffing the turkey and getting it ready for the oven. And then at the Williams, Audrey is up prepping the dinner, and Grace wakes up, and she starts questioning if the turkey is big enough, commenting on how back in the day they had to buy 3 turkeys, and also basically just asking, what's mushroom shiitake gravy, like looking over the menu and questioning everything. And Audrey's stressing out.
Yeah, she's meddling.
She is absolutely meddling. So that is when she also asks where Ronald is, and she informs her that the governor had a photo op at a church passing out turkeys to the homeless, and she's like, oh, well, if he's at church, that's completely fine, because at first she was mad he was working on Thanksgiving.
Yeah, she perks right up. Oh, he's at church? Well, that's fine then.
So at the Winds, Jenny is getting laundry together, and she goes into Gary's room, and under his bed, she finds a paper bag. She looks inside it, and that's when she reveals that there is a handgun inside the bag.
The way they did it was great, because she's gathering up dirty clothes for laundry.
Yeah.
And she decides to just be thorough, finds the bag, and there's a handgun in there.
So she goes out to confront him, and that's when her dad is like, hey, Jenny, here's the keys to the store. Can you go open it? It shouldn't be busy. I'll be over in a few hours to close up, and then you can come back. So she ends up leaving, and that's when at the ceilings, Ruth enters the room to see Rachel and Carla laying in bed together, because originally when she knocks on the door, Carla goes to the other bed, and Rachel's like, no, get over here.
Yeah. Well, and we should mention that they pushed the twin beds together.
They did.
As close as they could get.
They did.
Which is hilariously wholesome.
Well, and the whole thing is Herb is out front, and he's like, they can come out for coffee. You don't need to go in there, because he knows that she's going to be distraught when she comes out, which she is.
Yeah, I do love that, they're not totally clueless either.
No.
I mean, how could they be?
Yep.
But of course, when you meet the next generation of their family, they're as clueless as you get.
Clueless as you get. So she leaves with a heavy sigh, and Herb even questions, what did you expect? So at the Avilas, Gina and Johnny arrive, and that's when Lizzie places a big hug on her, gives her a kiss, and she welcomes Jimmy to their house. Anthony gives her a hug as she comes in the house as well, and she introduces him to Jimmy. One of the family, as Anthony sits back down, is like, he didn't expect her boyfriend to be Chinese, and Anthony goes, I didn't either. Shut up and watch the game.
Yeah.
So Lizzie questions, where is he from? And that's when he tells her that he was born in Vietnam, and she says, that's not what I was asking about. Where's your family at? And he's like, oh, well, they live in Westminster, before offering, do you guys want to take a nap, shower, freshen up? And that's when they decide to go take a shower.
Yeah, well, and I love that part too, because he says, I was born in Vietnam, and she's like, no, she said your family's from LA.
Yeah.
So we're in LA.
Yeah. So that's when we see that Jimmy is in the shower, and Gina surprises him, and that's when also Lizzie surprises them. She knocks on the door, and she's like, do y'all want something to eat? And Jimmy's like, no, we're fine. And she can tell what's going on outside the door, and she just smiles.
Yeah, she just thinks it's kind of funny. Yeah, well, I mean, it's not like it wasn't his idea.
No.
It was that Shiksa.
Yeah.
I like saying Shiksa when he's Vietnamese and she's Mexican. It's even funnier.
It is.
I mean, it's still true.
So at the video store, Jenny calls her boyfriend, and she's like, I need to talk to you. Can you please come see me? And that's when we cut back to the ceilings, where Carla, Ruth, and Rachel are all working on the turkey together, and she informs her that she's invited more family because the elderly family is at the nursing home. Nobody comes to see them. They have a small thing, and she wants them to feel invited to their home.
Aw.
So Carla goes out to see Herb, who is checking the hot tub, and he starts telling her about the temperature. She tries to talk in about how she uses a hot tub back where her home is, and he is just kind of goes past her and starts talking about good for circulation, shouldn't be in it too long, it's bad for the kidneys.
Well, he just starts giving her a spiel because he's really into his hot tub.
Yeah, he absolutely is. So meanwhile at the Williams, Grace goes over Audrey's dishes for Thanksgiving, and she asks, are you going to call Michael? And she's like, oh, I'll call him in a little bit. And that's when she even offers to whip up a batch of macaroni and cheese, and Audrey's like, sometimes it's good to try something new. And she, again, is close to losing it. And right at this point, Ronald comes home with flowers, and he's like, hey, you have me for the rest of the weekend. And that's when he also, she goes to basically give his mom a hug, and that's when Audrey's like, you need to get ready. So Audrey then confronts Ronald in the next room about Grace, telling him that she keeps asking about Michael, and and that's when she reminds him that it's his fault that he's not coming home. She also tells him that she resents him for putting her in this situation, and Ronald says, don't worry, I'll handle my mother. We'll get through this. It's Thanksgiving, and gives her a big hug.
You're in good hands.
You're in good hands. So that is when we cut to the most beautiful food montage set to Wipeout, once again in different beats as it goes with each ethnicity, as we just cut over.
Different musical styles.
Musical styles, yes, thank you. And various dishes are being prepared on screen. I mean, can we even name half of them?
Well, I mean, it's easy for me because in the Mexican family, they're making tamales.
Tamales, yeah.
And they've been making tamales even a couple of scenes earlier because tamales is a family-wide thing. When you decide to make tamales, you make, 50 of them because it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
But the Mexican family, they have tamales and they have rice and they have all these, but they also have mashed potatoes and the turkey. And there's like a very strong mix of traditional foods from both their culture and more of the traditional American culture. The Vietnamese family, they're making white rice, they're making chili oil, they're making dumplings, a lot of dumplings.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's an immense amount of food.
I mean, we even cut to Grace, who is making some macaroni and cheese for the feast.
She got to make it. And don't forget the polenta.
Oh, yeah, the polenta, yeah.
Yeah, they made polenta at the Jewish family's house because Rachel's girlfriend is a vegetarian.
That is correct.
Polenta's pretty good if you know how to make it right.
I've had it recently, and I can't remember where it was. I feel like it was a dinner I went to. I can't even remember now. I know I had it recently, like in the last year or so.
It would have been at an Italian restaurant, probably.
Probably.
Or a vegan place.
Okay. So at the Avila's, Johnny helps Lizzie get something off a high shelf, and that is when in the kitchen we see all the women start speaking in Spanish, commenting on what a nice butt he has and how cute he is, unaware that Jimmy can speak Spanish.
Yeah, the way he handles it is he just tells Abuela that he's happy to be at her service in clear Spanish, and they all laugh out loud.
So Jimmy and Gina join the rest of the crew in the living room watching football, but Gina pulls Anthony aside, asking him, how mom's doing, and he comments that she looks a lot better than Dad, who he ran into yesterday, and he looked like shit. Even telling him that he knows he screwed up, and Gina comments, messing up with his wife's cousin is pretty screwed up to begin with.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Anthony also informs her that he invited their dad, but he left a message on the machine telling him not to come, so everything should be okay.
Yeah, that's how answering machines worked, before voicemail.
So back at the ceilings, Carla calls her mother as Ruth and Rachel prep pie crust, and Ruth comments on her relationship with her mother because Carla's on the phone with her mother, and Ruth adds that all she wants for Rachel is for her to be happy with the family, and that's when Rachel tells her that she is happy, and, the family thing, she'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Audrey and Ronald's friends James and Paula arrive with the stepdaughter Monica, and that is when we also see that she's been a pain in the ass all day. The family's not really hip to Monica.
Yeah, they're not really feeling it.
So at the Avila's, Tony sits down with Jimmy, asking about his family, and Jimmy tells him that they're pretty close, and that's when Tony even asks him if he's ever seen Jackie Chan, and they also share his stunt work is amazing, admiring his stunts, but not adding that he's not as amazing as Bruce Lee, because Bruce Lee is boss.
Well, and this is him trying. He's trying to make him feel welcome by finding something they might have in common
to talk about. Yeah.
So, and also, Jackie Chan is fucking badass.
Police Story, hello.
In 2000, Jackie Chan was at his peak.
Rush Hour was out. I can't remember if Rush Hour 2 was out. I feel like it was, maybe.
I don't know, but he was still at his peak. He had another 5 to 10 years of doing his own stunts.
Yeah.
Still at that point.
So at the Williams, James and Ronald sit out back enjoying some wine. Inside, Audrey tells Paula that Michael most likely isn't coming. And in the living room, Kristen and the other little girl play Thanksgiving, and they ask Monica if she wants to join. Monica then is like, this is sick, and that's when Grace sits down, and she's like, oh, what are you all doing? And she's like, they're playing Thanksgiving. She's the mom, she's the dad, and I'm the alcoholic, cult-worshipping satanic stepmother. And Grace is like, that's nice. So at the ceilings, Carla and Rachel sneak away for a kiss in Rachel's room, and that's when Rachel tells her that she almost told her mother, but she got too sad. We don't know exactly what they're talking about, and she doesn't want them to tell her uncle about them because the uncle does not know that they are gay.
Right.
So that's when the doorbell sounds as the company begins to arrive at the ceilings. We also meet Aunt Bee and Uncle David as Rachel introduces her as roommate Carla.
Roommates.
So at the Avila's, Lizzie tells Gina to set an extra place during dessert for her visitor, Daniel, who she met at the school, and he is going to be stopping by to share dessert with them. At the ceilings, Rachel's brother Art and his wife Sarah arrive with their kids, whom Herb immediately latches onto because that's the grandbabies. And waste no time showing them the turkey and playing with them. And at the Avila's, Gina and Jimmy peel cornhusk on the back as she tells him he can go visit his family, but Jimmy tells her he can't be himself around them. And that's when Lizzie comes out requesting for them to go get more butter and also return some videotapes to the store.
I have some videotapes I need to return.
Jimmy's family's video store, to be precise.
Yes. The Vietnamese family own a video store.
Yeah.
And which is kind of shown at the beginning, too, because it appears that everybody in this neighborhood rents
from that
videos
video store,
from them. Yeah.
So at the video store, Jenny's boyfriend arrives as she shows him the gun, and she says that she found it under Gary's bed. He starts to freak out, and he's like, what are you doing with the gun? And she's like, it's not mine. I found it under Gary's bed. Her boyfriend immediately begins to freak out a little bit more, and that's when, at the Winds, Jenny calls the house, and her father answers, and he tells her that he's going to come to the store soon to close it up because her mother needs her back in the kitchen. She asks to speak to Gary, and that's when she asks him about the gun. Gary asks her what did she do with it, and it's not his, and that he's just looking after it for someone. He tells her not to say anything, and he needs it back. Meanwhile, Gina and Jimmy arrive at the video store. As Jimmy's father arrives, Jimmy then ducks down as his father and Gary go into the store, passing right by Gina, and that's when we hear a bit of a freak out, and that's when we see that Jimmy's father is not a fan of Jenny's boyfriend.
Yeah, and I could see how that misunderstanding could come about because her boyfriend dresses a little on the street side for 2000.
Yeah.
But by the way he was talking to her and the way he was handling the situation with the gun, it's very clear that he doesn't have any, he's not a troubled person.
No.
He's clearly a very straight, thinking for a young guy.
Yeah. So back at the Winds, Jenny's mother freaks out on her. She calls her ungrateful. There's a big shouting match for a little bit, and that's when Jenny tries to tell her that she doesn't understand. Jenny, by this point, is just crying and just super upset, and so she storms off to her room as Trin says, this is done for now. Go to your room. So she sits down and starts crying herself. That's when Grandma goes into Jenny's room with Gary behind her. She pushes Gary out because Gary's trying to talk to Jenny to get the gun back, obviously.
Of course.
And that's when Grandma sits on her bed and starts stroking her hair, and she tells her that her brother is upset with her as well, and invites her to come out to dinner, adding her mother didn't mean what she said, and she's actually very proud of her. Jenny questions then why can't she say that, and Grandma tells her that she needs to be more responsible and not make her life difficult, both her and her mother's.
It's a hard pill to swallow.
That it is. At the ceilings, Art asks Rachel how's it's going with Mom and Dad as they sit out back playing with one of the grandbabies, and that's when, Rachel is just kind of like, well, things are going okay. Jimmy then calls the Wynn family residence as his parents tell him about the issues with Jenny and that she's disgraced the family. They even ask if she'll speak to Jenny. They call her and she doesn't come out, and that's when she even asks Jimmy if they are giving away condoms in school. And as this happens, the smoke alarm starts to go off.
Oh, yeah, smoke.
So that's when she rushes off the phone. Joey picks up the phone, and he wishes Jimmy a happy Thanksgiving. The turkey has been burnt to a crisp as they pull it out of the oven. It's smoking, it's black.
It's wrecked, totally wrecked.
So meanwhile, at the Williams residence, the turkey is done, but Grace doesn't believe, so commenting as that it's even pink, and that's when Grace goes to stab the turkey, and Audrey's like, don't stab my turkey, and she's like, it's pink, that's how people get sick. So that Audrey tells her that she's been cooking turkeys for 20 years. She knows when it's done. And that's when Grace has the lunch. She's like, oh, all right, you cook it your way, but just put mine in the microwave before you give it to me.
Yeah, so then she just puts it back in the oven and lets it cook a little longer.
So at the Avila's, the doorbell sounds, and we find out that Javier has arrived as Tony's message did not get to him.
Oh, man, what a shock.
And Lizzie is not pleased as Javier presents her with a bouquet of flowers. Out back of the Williams, Grace joins Ronald out back as she tells him that Audrey yelled at her and chased her out of the kitchen. And Ronald tells her, please take it easy on Audrey. And, she's trying as best she can. And that's when Grace also questions, why do you have friends over and not family? Even commenting maybe if Ronald spent more time with the family, Michael would feel welcome to join the family for Thanksgiving.
Ooh.
So inside, dinner is ready as Audrey has the turkey brought out, setting it on the middle of the table as the table center completely collapses.
Yeah, as a person who is currently looking at dining room tables to purchase, those are the ones that have the extension.
Yeah, my parents have one like that.
Yeah, so that you can seat 6 people or 3 people on each side instead of 4. And it just completely gives. And her reaction to the turkey falling is perfect. She screams out of surprise, but then just starts like this mortified, like, and it's so believable because we know that she's going through something really awful and we know that the family is fractured, but she's trying to get through the meal and do a good job.
Yeah.
That's the one thing she has. That's why she's getting so extra mad at her being second guessed, is she's like, I'm going to make this meal good. So her reaction of just like, it ruined it. I ruined it is just so good.
Well, and of course, everybody rushes to her aid. You got Ronald, who's like, everything's okay. We've got Paula and James, who are trying to like pick up the veggies and everything that have fallen off. Well, the turkey didn't hit the floor.
Yeah, it didn't hit the floor.
Yeah, like the plate hit the floor, but the turkey's completely fine. So they're trying to clean everything up, and they're like, it's fine. Everybody calm down. Thanksgiving's going to be okay.
And his mother, his older mother, just keeps going, we can rinse it off.
Yeah, we can rinse it off. So that is when Audrey begins to freak out a little bit more, but he finally calms her down. They reset the turkey and the veggies with no hassle. Ronald even tells everyone that they're still going to have a great day. We then cut back to the ceilings where we see dinner is ready as well as the turkey is set down. The Avilas, the turkey feast also begins, and we see the Williams even regain composure at the Winds. They bring in KFC buckets, and Joey has never been happier in his life.
Yeah, they just bring in 2 big buckets of the Colonel, and that young man,
he's going,
and just chomping down on just whole drumsticks.
So we see also a prayer montage at this point, passes over the family dinners. The feast begins as we see the food is dished out, passed around as everyone fills their plates. Even Grace states to Audrey that mushroom shiitake gravy is interesting.
Wow, what is she, from Minnesota? How are things at their house? Oh, it's interesting.
So everyone's enjoying the food and the company. At the Williams, Grace requests that they go around the table and state one thing that they're thankful for, but suddenly the doorbell sounds.
Oh, no.
And that's when we see that Michael has showed up for Thanksgiving after all. Clearly, some are happier than others because we also get to see that Michael may or may not have been the kid that threw paint on Governor Rhodes in the beginning of the film.
I would say definitely.
Yeah, I would say definitely as well. So that's when Grace requests that Ronald get another chair so he can sit next to her. And Ronald questions, did he change his mind? He could have called. And Audrey stops him and says, that's nonsense. He doesn't need to call to come home. And by this point, Paula and James have both been told about the situation with Michael, and they're kind of snickering and also just kind of just uneasy by the whole homecoming at this point.
Yeah, I mean, it's very, very tense.
Yeah. So at the Avilas, Javier tells a joke, something along the lines of, there's a wino that is walking along and he sees a woman breastfeeding her baby, and the wino says, excuse me, but your baby invited me to dinner. And everybody laughs.
Me, but he invited me to be a guest to dinner.
Yeah, so everybody laughs, and that's when we also see that Javier starts doing an impersonation of Bruce Lee to Jimmy, being like, do you know who that is? And it's actually a pretty cute scene, honestly.
Well, it's clear that Javier is used to being the patriarch. He's used to being the loud, funny, charming guy. He's a very charming person, very handsome.
Because most of the family embraces him when he comes over.
Well, the table is almost entirely split by the genders.
Yeah.
So you have like all the men and his oldest son who he ran into at the grocery store. Of course, his wife is next to him.
Yeah.
But then on the other side is the mom with her abuela and
Gina and Jimmy.
Yeah. There is a bit of a divide.
Yeah.
Which, it's very tense. Having them both on either head of the table is very perfect and telling.
It's pretty great.
But yeah, he's clearly, he's so used to being the guy entertaining everybody and making everybody laugh. And his jokes they're going over okay on the other side of the table at best.
Yeah.
So, and he's not used to that. He's not used to getting glares instead of laughter.
Yeah. Lizzie is not having it. She's not exactly, I wouldn't say like giving him death eyes, but she's just kind of
no,
stern.
she's humoring him.
Yeah.
No, I mean, she's completely just like, well, okay.
Yeah. So at the ceilings, Aunt B starts to question Carla about her life, even asking her, how do you like the area? Where'd you come from and all this stuff? And Rachel, and how her and Rachel became roommates. And Rachel states that they met at work. And B also mistakes the polenta for Jell-O.
I thought that was Jell-O.
So back at the Williams, everyone is going around the table as Paula expresses her gratitude and having friends to invite them over for dinner. Ronald states he's grateful for his wife and his children, which doesn't really set well with Audrey. And Michael states that he's happy to be home. Monica then closes by thanking the fellow Native Americans who gave this land for measles and casinos, and that's when they kind of end what everybody's grateful for.
Well, she's a little edgelord,
Just a little bit. So James asks Michael what he's been up to as Michael confesses to his grandma that he's actually taken some time off from college, and he's maybe not planning on going back. Ronald asks, about Santa Barbara USC and how it's a great school. table, and Michael states that there's no black people there, and that's when Ronald questions, what does he think that he's going to do with the degree in African American studies?
I mean, I guess teach African American studies. That's always what I say when I hear somebody studying something that there's no like active job in. I'm like, well, I guess you could teach it then.
Yeah. So Monica questions what he thinks about the whole Ebonics thing, and that's when Michael is like, I like you.
Well, at first he reacts kind of like, what the hell is her problem?
Yeah.
And then he looks back at her, he's like, yeah, I like you.
So at the ceilings, they get into a government roads discussion about his past incident, or his pain incident, and that's when Rachel's family, minus her brother, basically all sign up for Rhodes and say that they like that he speaks his mind and that they're happy that he's in office. And that's when Rachel cannot hold it any longer, and she's like, but he's a racist, anti-gay bigot, which basically shuts the table completely
Yeah, it makes
up.
the entire table quiet.
Yeah. So that is when we cut back to the Wins, who question if Jimmy is eating today and how he's probably doing. At the Avelas, Javier asks what his family does to Jimmy, and that's when he tells him about the video store. Javier also talks about the first time meeting Lizzie's family and having dinner with them, and how he was so afraid of her grandpa that he couldn't eat. And that's when Abuela chimes in and says that if grandpa was still alive, Javier wouldn't have done what he did. And that also kind of shuts everybody up at the table.
No, that's a mic drop.
Yeah. So by that point, Lizzie leaves the table, and Javier chases after her, telling her that he's sorry, and that she reminds him that Anthony invited him, and he tells her that he still loves her, and that she still takes his breath away. The doorbell then sounds as Daniel arrives.
It's never good when a doorbell rings in this film.
Daniel arrives with the pies.
Yes, and a very believable entrance too.
Yeah.
The idea that he's coming over just for dessert suggests that obviously he has his own family obligations because it's Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
So he was able to duck away just in time for pie.
And for the record, Daniel, who is played by A. Martinez.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yep. So that is when we see that Javier is immediately not thrilled with this.
I couldn't imagine why.
Because that's when Tony clearly also looks unsettled, and she asks Daniel if he's feeling strong, and he says, yeah, and she replies, good. So she takes Daniel out back, introducing him to everyone as the family is uneasy with the new guests. She also introduces Daniel to Anthony, Gina, and Jimmy, but Javier speaks up, introducing himself as Lizzie's husband.
Well, I mean, legally, he's correct.
Yeah, and that's when he asks who Daniel is, and Daniel is like, well, I work with Lizzie at the school, and that's when he's like, well, how long have you known her? And they both say a few years at the same time.
Yeah.
So back at the Williams, Michael states that he's working as a teacher's aide, and he wants to go to Howard, and that's when Grace is like, wasn't that in D.C.? And Ronald questions if he thinks the school will take him if he doesn't finish anything, and Michael gives Ronald hell for working on the Rhodes campaign, who is against affirmative action. Ronald then takes the opportunity to expose Michael as being the one who threw paint on Governor Rhodes.
Yeah, I mean, it was bound to come out eventually.
Yeah.
But of course, all things
and that's when
to.
Grandma tells him that's not right, and then Michael then exposes Ronald by telling her to ask him who Lisa is. And that's when Ronald tells him that's enough, and Ronald is pissed at this point. And Audrey leaves the table. Grace joins Michael and Audrey in the kitchen, and that's when Michael says that his father had an affair with Lisa, who I believe is a secretary.
Yeah, somebody from work.
Yeah.
Which is why it's extra grating when he's away for work.
Exactly. And that's when Audrey just starts diving into a pie, and she's stating the affair is over, and Grace then goes after Ronald. She's like, Ronald! and walks out to get him. By this point, Michael apologizes to his mom, and that's when Ronald comes in and says James and Paula are going to go leave at this point, and Ronald tells them goodbye. Audrey then comments that there's a lot of fucking shit that has to be put up with this family, but you kids are worth it, because Michael is just like, why are you sticking with him? Why are you doing this to yourself? And that's when Michael sees that he's fucked up, because his mom just breaks down crying.
Yeah, well, he's... he means well, he just doesn't know what he doesn't know.
Yeah.
So when he confronts his mom and says, like, why are you doing this to yourself? She's just like, I want our family to be together.
Yeah.
And he doesn't get it because he's in college. So he already knows, or was in college. So he already knows everything.
And one F-bomb for a PG-13 movie placed beautifully. It gets the point across.
Not bad. I would have settled for half a buttock, but this works.
So outside, Ronald is scolded by his mother, who questions, what did you do and why'd you do it? And he's like, Mom, if I could tell you, I would. And she's like, well, how do you plan on fixing it? And he tells her that he's already trying to. So back at the ceiling, Aunt B comments on Hannah and Jessica being so adorable, the grandbabies, and she also comments to Rachel that she hears her clock going tick-tock, tick-tock, and Rachel's like, well, what do you mean? And she's like, well, we're all waiting on that special man to come into your life.
And into your womb.
That's when Aunt B even comments on changing her hair, maybe making herself look more glamorous, which if you heard the trailer at the beginning, you heard this section of dialogue.
Pretty solid.
And that's when Carla comments that she likes the way that Rachel's hair is.
Yeah, but who cares about your roommate thinks
at this
about
point,
your hair?
Rachel's brother Art is passing a bottle of wine around, and that's when Rachel's like, just go ahead and top it
yeah,
off.
just fill her up.
So that's when we see that... excuse me here for a second. At the Avelas, Tony states that Lizzie didn't tell him she invited someone, and Javier offers to leave, but Lizzie states, no, you're wanted here, the family wants you here. And that's when she goes to offer dessert, asking Javier, what he wants. And that's when he states that he wants his wife and children back.
Well, I mean, I think she more meant like cake or pie.
Yeah, or flan.
Or flan, yeah, flan's good.
And that's again, excuse me, I actually was ahead. That's when he asked how long they known each other, and that's when they say a few years, and that Daniel has been a great compadre for her. And Gina states that Javier left, and Tony goes to defend him, but Abuela tells him can't you see that she's happy now?
Yeah, and she is very happy.
Yeah, so Javier leaves the table in a huff as Lizzie chases after him. She shuts the doors in the living room, but the family, being nosy that they are, get up from the table and all crowd around the glass door.
I love this scene because he gets up and storms off. He knocks his chair over. She storms after him. They get into the house. They close the door behind them, and then they speak completely calm and candidly.
Yeah.
Like, there's no yelling at all.
No.
It's just immediate to like, I didn't know you were going to bring someone. Okay? Like, I love how he's like, of course I'm mad. I didn't know that you were seeing someone.
So Javier states that he is embarrassed and he didn't know that he was coming. And she reminds him that she didn't know he was coming.
Well, and apparently he had not taken the time to really talk to them, any of them, at very least to say he's sorry.
Yeah. So she also questions, what does he expect her to do, adding he never said sorry to her or the children. And Javier, seeing her side, apologizes with tears in his eyes, stating that he loves her and he doesn't want to let this destroy the family. And that's when she fires back with, no one in this family is destroyed.
But you know what? That's not even a fire back. That's
no, not
just
fire back,
just she's just giving him a reality check of like, this is not the end of their world.
No.
Just because feels like it's the end of yours.
Yeah. And he questions, will she give him a second chance? But she shakes her head, telling him sorry. And that's when he storms off. Tony goes after him, but he stops as the door shuts. And Anthony apologizes to his mom because we see that Lizzie sits down on the couch. Abuela sits next to her. And she's like, where's Anthony? And she turns around the couch and he's like, Mom, I'm sorry. And he apologizes and we hear Javier speed off.
Yeah. It's tense, and the way she reacts when he asks for a second chance, it's very clear that they didn't have a great marriage beforehand, which is why she's just like, no.
Yeah, she doesn't raise her voice ever once.
No, she even says, I'm sorry.
Yeah, because even when he says, give me another chance, she's just like, no. Like, it's just like that delivery, too. So back at the ceilings, Aunt B is laying it on heavy about not having one to share a life with and, not take vacations with anybody. And that's when Rachel speaks up that she has something to say, announcing that she's pregnant.
Well, and her parents were trying to run interference for
big
her.
time.
Like, when they were saying, like, what's the point of this career and having this big house and no one to share with?
And they're like, hey, look at the turkey. Look at the turkey.
Before that, though, he was just saying, like, you have to understand that, like, in their generation, like, their friends are very like their family and stuff like that. But they literally is just waving the turkey around.
So Aunt B and Uncle David are celebratory as Herb questions, but you're a lesbian. Unveiling to the family, asking, who's the father, and that's when she tells him it doesn't matter, but Herb isn't backing down at this point. And Art tells Herb, it's common nowadays. Rachel in tears says all that matters is that she's going to be happy and that she's going to have a baby and that she's going to want to bring it around the family. But then she questions if her father is even going to want to be around the baby.
Well, and it turns out that the reason he keeps obsessively asking who the father is because he thinks she's had some kind of tawdry affair against her girlfriend.
Yeah.
Which I thought was really kind of delightful.
Yeah, he still can't let it go, and he's asking who's the father as Ruth is in tears at this point, and Rachel suggests that it's a donor, also unveiling that it's Jerry, her brother.
Yes.
And that's when he's like, well, but Jerry's gay.
Yeah, but he's gay.
So that's when B questions, is the baby going to be Jewish?
Yeah, I want to know, is the baby going to be Jewish? The answer is yes.
So at the Winds, Gary's friends arrive to collect the gun. Jenny answers the door, shutting it in their face, telling them that he'll call them later. And that's when she tells Gary that he has to talk to the family, even announcing to the family that Gary's in trouble. And the family sends Joey to his room, forcing Gary to sit down as Jenny lays the gun on the table carefully. And Gary tells them it's not his. And by this point, the family's like, what are you doing with the gun? We left Vietnam to get away from this kind of violence. These are not your friends if they're making you do these kind of things. All while this is going on, Gary is like trying to run out of the house, and Jenny apologizes that she was only trying to help him. His mom questions if he's in a gang, and he says he's not that stupid, and that his friend Don was jumped. They took his jacket. He started cursing them out, and now they're after him. Meanwhile, Joey comes out of his room and quickly finds the gun on the table, thinking it's a toy, unaware. The family also unaware because they're all talking to Gary with their backs to Joey, and Joey starts touching the trigger. He's pointing the barrel towards him, looking at the gun, and that's when suddenly the gun goes off, and we don't see what happened.
Well, we cut to outside, and then there's a gunshot. You made it sound like it went off while he was looking down the barrel.
Well, it does, because the family's talking and the gun goes off. The family's reaction is we don't see the outside until the next scene.
Well, what I meant was the way you described it was like, and then he has the gun pointed at his face and it goes off.
Oh, well, yeah.
That's what I meant. It's a little
apologies.
different.
So we see the Sealings, the Williams, and the Avilas all hear the shot. And this is the beautiful moment of the movie.
Yeah, it ties it all together beautifully.
Revealing that all four families live on the same intersection. So they live basically on the corner of each other, and that's when they all go outside, and they're all standing on their respective street corners. Jimmy races, of course, towards the house because Gina's like, I think that came from your house. And that's when we see all the families converge in the streets speaking about the family. Later that night, we see the window is broken where the gunshot was, where the bullet went out of. So no one was hurt. It went out the window. No one was hurt. And the Winds boarded up. Jimmy and Jenny stand on the porch. Meanwhile, at the Avilas, the Sealings all gather to leave. Aunt B and David still discussing Rachel's baby, if it's going to be Jewish, who's the father. And that's when Ruth is like, all right, good night.
Yeah, bye. Have a good night.
Lizzie is standing with Gina, and that's when she tells Gina, Gina, I met his father today. He's a good man, and I think it would be okay if you went over. So Gina walks across the street, joining Jimmy on the porch. He introduces her to the family. We see that Ronald and Audrey are in the kitchen as they're cleaning up after the dinner, and that's when he comes behind and hugs her, and he asks for her forgiveness. They embrace and kiss. Rachel sees her father in the jacuzzi by himself with the dog out there, and Gina sits down with the Wynn family as they share leftovers with her, and that's when Grandma also comments that she's so adorable, she looks Vietnamese.
Yeah. Yeah, well, because, that's what he was afraid of. He was afraid they wouldn't approve of him having a Mexican girlfriend.
And while this is happening, Jimmy asks Joey about his play. We pan over to Michael and Ronald, who are taking out the trash, and Michael is like, Ronald is like, Michael, I'm not telling you how to live your life. I'll support any decision you make, but, schooling is very important, and Michael agrees. Lizzie and Daniel come out as she walks Daniel to his car, and they share a goodnight kiss. Out back of the Sealings, Art, Rachel, Sophia, and Carla sit with Herb in the jacuzzi as Ruth comes out with a cappuccino. The camera pans up as we see a beautiful LA cityscape before it all fades out, and that is 2000's What's Cooking.
And it all ended with God Only Knows by the Beach Boys.
That is correct.
In a cappella. So it's a really beautiful, serene sequence. Yeah. And it's what made the movie click with me so deeply.
Yeah, it is fantastic. I mean, like I said, we've read a synopsis for you, but even that synopsis doesn't do it justice. If you have not seen this movie, make sure you seek it out. It's absolutely worth it. Would you like to know some things about the film, Henrique?
Sure.
So, in full-on Dave fashion, I kind of daved this up a little bit because Henrique and I both do not own the DVD. And it was only this past Sunday that we recorded this past Sunday from this recording that I found out that there is a commentary track for the film. I did not have time to get the DVD with the short notice, so unfortunately, there's not a lot of information for this film online, but I do have some few things. No budget was given, but opening weekend, it makes $144,586, November 19th, 2000.
Oh, wow.
Grosses worldwide, $1,698,759.
Okay.
The film was given a limited theatrical release beginning November 17th of 2000. It was released in the UK on August 31st of 2001. It ultimately grossed $1,698 worldwide. What's Cooking was the opening night film of the 2000 Sundance Film Festival and was the first British script to be invited to the Sundance's Institute Writers Lab.
Huh. I do find it fascinating that this film was written by a Brit.
Yeah.
Or two Brits.
The film was voted a Joint Audience Award winner at the 2000 New York Film Critics Circle Awards, and Chadha won the award for the Best British Director at the London Film Critics Circle Awards. What is your final thoughts on What's Cooking from 2000?
I mean, I love the movie.
Yeah.
I really do. I think that if ever there was a movie that actually captured perfectly the concept of Thanksgiving being an American holiday and what it means to be American, which is to mean to vary greatly from family to family.
Yeah.
To have families with such an immense difference culturally, ethnically, in every way.
Yeah.
And then to realize that they're all living across the street from each other.
So good.
That is an inherently American thing. That is not a common thing anywhere else in the world.
Yeah.
And it's rare to see a movie celebrate it so beautifully without it being jingoistic or saccharine or anything like that. I love it. I would call it a buy it.
Yeah.
Even though Dave did not.
You did not either. We have it digitally.
I mean, I ordered a copy now.
Did you now?
Yeah, of course.
So it is also a buy it for me as well. This is just a movie that embodies, as I said, the Thanksgiving holiday to a T. You have absolutely perfect performances from the entire cast. You have a lot of great writing sequences. You've got a lot of just bouncing around, and then it all makes sense in the end as it does to just wrap everything up in a great bow at this point. This is a movie that's a really good feel-good Thanksgiving movie. You could probably show it to the family at that point. And I will say, like, this is one of those Thanksgiving movies. I love Home for the Holidays. That said, there's portions of Home for the Holidays that get a little unpleasant that kind of take me out of it. But this movie, even with its unsettling scenes, it's still a great watch every time.
Yeah, I would agree.
So that is What's Cooking from 2000. We always like to end the show with a couple recommendations. The first one I have for this week is 2005's The Family Stone. An uptight liberal business woman accompanies her boyfriend to his eccentric and outgoing family's annual Christmas celebration and finds that she's a fish out of water in their free-spirited way of life. The second recommendation I'm going to give is The Oath from 2018.
That's a great film.
In politically divided America, a man struggles to make it through the Thanksgiving holiday without destroying the family. If you have not seen The Oath, cannot recommend it enough. Like, that movie is so wild.
It's so hard to get your hands on. Like, I don't think it's has it ever been free to watch or even subscription available?
I think Hulu had it.
It might have been on Hulu briefly, but like every time we've watched it, we had to rent it or buy it.
I own the DVD now, I think, yeah. Let's see where. Oh, that's the TV series. Damn it. All right, let's see. As IMDb takes forever to load, there it is. Mike Barnholtz, Timothy Haddish, and it is loading. Yeah, you can only rent it on Prime.
Yep.
So I know it was on Hulu for a little bit, but yeah, unfortunately, it does not look like it is widely available right now.
Yeah, it just hasn't really gotten around very much.
Yeah. So what is your recommendation for this week? Do you have one?
Yeah, I want to go with 2016's Almost Christmas.
I literally almost did that.
Yeah, I would have punched you in the head if you had. It's a great film. A dysfunctional family gathers together to get their first Christmas, for their first Christmas since their mother passed away. It's very, very funny. It's heartfelt.
Great cast.
It's got some good, silly slapstick to kind of make everybody chuckle. And yeah, the cast is exquisite.
So good.
So very, very good film.
Would you like to know what we're talking about next week on the show as we close out Thanksgiving?
Why the hell not?
Well, we are going with, you guessed it, that's not cranberry sauce, 1987's Blood Rage.
A true classic.
A true classic indeed. I still will never forget that time that Joe Bob ended the Dinners of Death with it. And you and I were both kind of on the verge of, I'm sleep. Nope, not anymore.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's 4 movies.
Yeah.
You know, that's a late night.
That was a late night. So do we have any emails this week?
I could check again, but I'm pretty sure we don't.
Oh, well, sadness.
Yeah, well, you know. Oh, wait. We have one that came in today.
Ooh.
It's from Patrick, our good buddy Patrick.
Yeah.
It says, do you guys have plans to do Eli Roth's Thanksgiving one day? Thanks for the entertainment, Hen, and turkey-hating Dave.
I personally really enjoyed Thanksgiving. I think you did too.
Yeah, it was fun.
It could absolutely become an episode. Probably next year wouldn't consider it most likely, but I really enjoyed it. It's a fun slasher
I would be
film.
down to revisit it after some time has gone by.
Yeah,
I think it'll be kind to it.
We're getting a sequel too.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
taken a while.
Yeah, it has. So, we are talking about Blood Rage 1987 on next week's show. And I will go ahead and say, because Hen and I looked ahead, and you can rent it wherever you get your videos from currently, but you also can find it is at Moment.
You didn't write it down?
I have it up, I feel like.
I sent it to your email, so you have it. Moment 2, I think. Moment 2?
Yeah.
Yeah, Moment 2. It's a new, like, Tubi competitor.
Yeah.
Mometu. Moment 2. I know that they're legitimate because I've licensed some movies to them myself. But it's the only place that has Blood Rage to stream free with ads.
Stream the full uncut and hybrid cut of Nightmare in Shadow Woods and Blood Rage, mind you, too.
Yeah.
So you are getting the fullest version of the movie that you can get. So that is going to be on next week's show right here on Do You the Movie.
It's true.
So are you ready to get out of here?
I think it's about that time.
All right.
But we will be back here next Tuesday. If you want to send us an email, do so at doyouevenmoviepod@gmail.com. We'd be happy to hear from you. You can also go to doyouevenmovie.com for all the pertinent details. But other than that, we will see you next Tuesday.